There's more to character abilities. Character abilities, specifically elemental skills and bursts, are used to fight bosses and enemies. But these elemental skills and bursts can also be used to explore the open world of Genshin Impact. For example, you can use Keqing's elemental skill, which allows you to teleport and to get through hard and small places, which is quite handy. Another additional example is you can use Venti's elemental skill, Skyward Zonet, to launch yourself up in the air and collect certain items like Geomarculus or Aminomarculus. Now of course I don't have these characters at the moment, but using these elemental skills and bursts makes it easier to explore this open world a lot easier. Believe it or not, character height matters. When exploring, climbing mountains, trees, or whatever you're trying to climb can consume a lot of stamina. Or even in some situations where you have to cross through a lake, using short characters can also consume unnecessary stamina. When climbing mountains, trees, or whatever, use taller characters. Why? Because they have the advantage of stride length and vertical length. This means you can use them to climb and move at a faster rate, thus reducing your stamina use. On the other hand, short characters take up less space. This makes them more versatile for getting through tight obstacles and spaces. Or when it comes to crossing through lakes, specifically swimming through lakes, instead of using short characters, use taller characters instead. Because of their height, it makes it easier for them to just cross through the lake without having to use your stamina and swim. Bunny hopping. As a player, you already know continuous dashing. It is basically continuous dashing in order to gain a lot of momentum so that you can get from point A to point B. Not only is this method of dashing better than the normal way of dashing, but it also saves a lot of stamina. Now there is another method of gaining momentum, and that is bunny hopping. As the name suggests, all you need to do is to dash, then immediately jump and perform another mid-air dash. Basically, you dash, then jump, and then perform the same process. With this type of method, you can gain more momentum and it is pretty efficient as well. However, on your first try, you might not be able to execute perfectly, and that is because it is difficult and it takes time to practice. But with enough practice and muscle memory, you'll be able to execute it with ease. There are also a few caveats to this method as well. You can only do this method on a PC with a mouse and keyboard as far as I'm aware of, and certain characters can do well with this technique while others don't. Here's a list of characters that can bunny hop. Team composition. Your team setup is the very core of this game. Which characters you pick in the team is going to impact how much synergy those characters will have with one another. In general, it is important to use well-rounded teams that can trigger elemental reactions, provide shields, provide buffs, etc. This is especially important if you want to tackle the Abyss domains, which is not easy to deal with if you want more rewards. So having a well-rounded team is mostly going to help you win the most challenging Abyss domains. Let's take a look at the character selection real quick. You already know the combat roles. We have the DPS, the sub-DPS, the enabler, and the healer. So as you can see, the first character I pick is Zhongli as my main DPS. Now obviously this is something I don't recommend building because you'll be losing out on the advantage of his tanky shield. Since Zhongli was designed to have a tanky shield, I obviously don't recommend you build him as a main DPS. The reason why I'm even using him as a DPS is because at the time I only had limited artifacts, but you get the point. The second character I pick is Raiden Shogun. Not only is she perfect for sub DPS, but she can also absorb a lot of energy recharge and then use that energy recharge for other party members. In addition to her elemental skill, it allows her to do electro damage, and on top of that, It can create a buff that can increase your party's elemental burst damage. So basically, you can use her in any possible team and she can still do damage. The third character I use is Yoimiya, and while she may not be suited for a support aka enabler, I do use her for one reason, and that is to do a pyro reaction aka overload, and for me to have Raiden and Yoimiya makes the perfect ingredient for that. Lastly, I use Noelle as my healer. With her elemental skill, not only does she do a lot of damage, but with her elemental burst, she converts all of that damage into healing, and not only just for one character, but for other characters that have taken damage as well. So with all of this, I have a pretty good first half team that allows me to not only do a lot of damage, but provide a bit of shielding so that I do not take unnecessary damage. The second half is the same thing. Hotao is my main DPS, Yao Yao is my sub DPS, Shinku as more of a healer, and Rosaria as the enabler. The major difference with this team compared to my first team is that I'm using different elements. This means I trigger different elements and their synergies with one another work so well. So basically, using well-rounded teams, not just for their base domains, but for other bosses you want to fight in the future is very important. Iframes make you better at dodging attacks. If you watch this video, you may remember a common trick I mentioned which had to do with adapting to the enemy's attack. Dashing is a very common trick that a lot of Genshin players use to simply dodge enemies' attacks, which is quite handy. But do you know that this game has iframes that can make you better at dodging the opponent's attacks? For example, there's the character swapping, in which when an opponent tries to attack you, you can switch to another character and almost never take damage. With enough practice and the right timing, you can almost abuse this trick in so many ways that you can never take damage. This trick is extremely useful, specifically for those annoying bosses where it feels like it's almost impossible to dodge their attacks, no matter whether you are close range or even far away from them. Now, the most common trick that a lot of Genshin players use when they want to dodge the enemy's attacks is the dashing animation. This trick is fairly easy to master. All you need to do is to use the iframes of the opponent to tell when they're going to attack, and with the right timing, all you need to do is to simply dash whichever direction you take, and then you can pretty much attack the opponent as much as possible. If this trick is new to you, then don't worry. What you can do is to simply practice this on smaller enemies like Helichos or mages, specifically Abyss mages. Don't underestimate 4-star constellations. Most Genshin players have been there. You wish when you're 80 or 90 the pool for a new character, and as a result you end up getting a character that wasn't in the banner. This is known as a 50-50 loss, but you do get a repeatable 4-star character. This is known as a constellation. The problem is that when we don't get the new 5-star character, what we tend to overlook is that these repeatable 4-star constellations can make our 4-star character even stronger, because the truth is, any 4-star character, if you build that 4-star character well and give that character the right weapon, they can do as much damage as the 5-star character. These constellations give character buffs and passives that allow them to do damage. So don't be disheartened if you don't get a new character, or if you got someone else who's a 5-star character, because with every new wish comes with a new repeatable character that will give you some hope. This last tip that I'm about to give you is by far the most important tip, and it is also the same tip that a lot of Genshin players will say over and over again, and that is to enjoy the game. It is easy to get overwhelmed with the grinding preset in the later parts of the game, and to be honest, this game is getting more and more complex. So your experience at the start of the game may not be the same as it is towards the end. This means that what started off as an enjoyable game turns into what feels like an actual job, trying to max your stats artifacts, weapons, characters, and more. This can cause experienced players, even new players, to feel like they are being burnt out and quit the game entirely. You don't have to max every single character at the very end of the game. In my opinion, I would only advise you to do that if you have enough materials to do so. For now, it is just advisable to focus on characters you like and enjoy. If possible, just do characters. Find out what makes the game enjoyable or great for you. For example, if it's just the storyline, then I would advise you to focus on that. If it's puzzles, then focus on that. By doing this, it will feel like you're playing the game for the first time, and this will help you to continue enjoying the game even further. This will save you from headaches and have less burnout in the future. So in conclusion, doing these will make the experience more enjoyable and make it less grinding like an actual job and more like a journey.